Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Alex Primm, and I'm here today with Mrs. Ora Logan. And we visited last night, and you were born in Springfield. No, you were born in Kansas
City.
Right. Mm-hmm. And what year was it that you moved to Springfield, roughly?
I think I was about a year old when they brought me to Springfield.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been about 1930?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Or 29.
29?
Because I was born in 27.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your mother brought you there.
Right.
And was she working then?
She probably worked after she got to Springfield. But, I know she had to move out of town to work at Barnes, and that was before my memory, so I must have been real young in St. Louis.
Oh, she was working in St. Louis?
Yes. As I mentioned, a lot of black people had to move to different towns to
find jobs.
And I know she worked at Barnes in St. Louis when I was very small, because I don't remember it, so I must have been under 4 years old.
But then you spent most of your girlhood in
Springfield.
And that's where you met Bert Adams at Lincoln
In
School.
school, yeah, right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember when your mother started the restaurant and hotel?
Well, first she started there. She lived on Clay Street, and she had a house. And the kids wanted someplace to go because there weren't very places for black kids to go to entertain themselves. So she had a room, and she let them come in and dance, and she sold them sodas and everything.
That was on Clay Street? On
Clay Street. Mm-hmm. And then I saw an article about the city hospital being offered for sale, and I just mentioned it to her. And then before I knew it, she had investigated it and found out that she might be able to buy it. And she did buy it and started the hotel on Benton, 618 North Benton.
And you know roughly what year that was that she got that started?
No, it was in the 50s.
Early 50s?
Yeah. Maybe 54 or 55, because I know on some of the pictures, the date is on the picture.
And did you help her in the hotel?
Yes.
What kind of things did you do?
Well, once in a while, if my two aunts were the cooks, and sometimes they would squabble in the kitchen. And she would call me up and ask me. I said, well, get them out of the kitchen and get some stuff out of the freezer, and I'll be there and I'll help you. So sometimes I'd come and cook. And I'd help in any way I could when she was in a pinch.
What were your aunts' names?
Margie and Stella.
What was their last name?
Crittenden.
And that was your mother's maiden name? Crittenden?
No, that was my grandmother's maiden name.
Oh, okay.
My mother's maiden name was Northcutt.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned that. And then how about your father?
Well, my father, his name was Fred Charles Watkins. And there was a large family of Watkins down near Neosho in Oklahoma. And I don't remember too much about him, but I know that after they divorced, that he moved back to Oklahoma or Kansas.
So he wasn't in the picture for you?
No. But I know that one of his relatives, Mariah Watkins, was the one that took care of George Washington Carver.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really something. George Washington Carver moved away from Missouri when he was a young man, didn't he? So he wasn't a family friend or anything.
No.
But people knew of him.
Right.
Because he was such a brilliant guy. What about your mother? She must have been a pretty intelligent person.
She was.
To be able to run a business like that.
And continue working at the telephone company.
Oh, yeah? What did she do for the phone company?
Maid.
So she worked cleaning up?
Right.
And she worked evenings?
No, during the day.
During the day?
She worked about 6 o'clock. I think her shift was 6 to 3.
Oh, wow. So that was a long day.
Right.
And then she would come back to the hotel.
Right.
But was it her sisters who were working there?
Her aunts.
Oh,
Margie
her aunts.
and Stella.
Okay.
And they stayed there.
They stayed at the hotel?
Yeah.
It was, do you remember it being an active place, or was it mainly just active on the weekend?
No, it was active mostly through the week because it had the rumpus room in the back and had the barber shop and the beauty shop, and people were always coming and going.
Yeah.
It was a fun place.
So there were a lot of kids coming in as well, using the snack bar?
Yes. Well, not so much during the day because most of kids were at school, but in the evening.
Oh, that's really great.
Yeah.
When did you stop working at your mother's hotel?
When I left to come to St. Louis, but I'd help her, as while I was there. But see, my stepfather helped, and my grandmother, and the 2 aunts. So it was kind of like a family affair. And then my son, he helped when he was there. He came up here and went to school for a year, and then he moved back to Springfield, and he helped her at the hotel.
When did she close it approximately?
Well, I don't know. I moved up here in 57. It was in the 60s.
So she might have kept it another 5 years.
Maybe so.
After you moved
to
St. Louis. Did she enjoy doing the hotel?
Yes, she did.
Who do you remember most of the guests who stayed there? Are there any special guests? Any famous guests?
Well, little Goose Tatum.
From the Globetrotters.
Yeah, and his, I guess his wife or girlfriend, but they had a child named Little Goose. We call him Reese. And Layman Jackson, that
musician.
Right. And he ended up staying there for about a year.
Staying in Springfield.
Yeah, right, and playing with Bebop. The musician.
Bebop Brown.
Right. Yeah. And but there's so many. That's why I gave you that book, because I can't remember all the names till I see them, and then my recall comes back.
Well, you told us one story yesterday. I wonder if you could tell the story again about the soldiers from Fort Leonard Wood.
Right. Yeah, a group of soldiers. They were a mixed group, and they wanted to stay at the hotel, but they wouldn't accept the black soldiers. So they decided they didn't want to stay there because they said that we fought together, we'll stay together. And so they came over to the hotel and said that they wanted to stay they all wanted to stay together. So we had to make provisions for them to stay together.
At the Grahams.
Right.
And how many soldiers was it, do you think?
Oh, it must have been about 15. It was over 10, I know.
So it was a big group.
Right. But they stayed in beds on the floor and everywhere just to stay together, But they had a good time.
Yeah. And they were good friends. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Were there other things like that where you'd have other visitors who were whites or Spanish, or was it always just all blacks? Or
most of the time it was all black, unless it was a group that was together, and the blacks couldn't stay other places. They But they, I was trying to think of another group that. The group from the Ozark Jubilee, they used to come over a lot. And when they had parties, or celebrate somebody's birthday. And the blacks couldn't go to the white places. They'd all come over to Alberta's because a lot of them knew Alberta.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember Brenda Lee? Did she perform at the Rumpus Room?
No, she didn't perform at the Rumpus Room. You had to ask Junior about that because he was there during that time.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
But she might have stayed there or come there for parties.
Just come for parties. Yeah.
What other entertainers do you remember who might have come from the Ozark Jubilee?
Charles Brown. Oh, from Jubilee.
Yeah.
Oh, Pat Boone's. I think Pat Boone and Red Foley. There were some other names, but I can't recall their names now. But it was a large group of whites because they performed at, I think, KWTO. I think that was the station that the Ozark Jubilee was on. You might check me on that.
Yeah. I was reading the article that your son wrote about the hotel.
Oh, yeah.
He really has some good memories.
Yeah, he does.
What about the farm? You talked a little bit about that yesterday.
Yeah.
Did you help out at the farm at all?
Well, when I was home, I had moved to St. Louis, I think, by that time. And then when I come back, we'd go out to the farm for parties or just to spend some time.
Did anyone live at the farm?
Well, my mother did, but they moved back and forth, in the city.
Yeah, they might stay at the farm when it was hot in the city.
Right.
They'd go out to the country.
Or when business was slow and they wanted some time off, they'd go out to the farm. And sometimes the people would be out there and they'd call back to town and say, "We out to the farm." And so she'd drive out to the farm, and next thing you know, we'd have a big group out there.
So the farm, there was also some camping there for people who didn't want to stay at the hotel, or the hotel was crowded?
I don't remember that, but see, I was in St. Louis at the...
Oh, yeah. Was there... Who was growing the vegetables out there? Or who was... It mentions in the article that sometimes they grew some things.
You have to ask Junior about that, because I was back in St. Louis by that time.
So you didn't spend a whole lot of time at the farm?
No.
How long did your mother own it?
I know she must have owned it about 7 or 8 years. To my recollection. It
mentions across the street from the farm.
Yeah, the roadside park.
Right.
I don't know whether it's still there or not.
And there was also a little general store.
Barnes.
Right.
Barnes General Store, yeah.
Was that a black family?
No.
But they were friendly with you all.
Right.
Because you would send them business.
Right.
So that was really a special place.
Right.
That people could go out and have a good time. Were there other farms nearby that were owned by African Americans?
Not in that area, I don't think.
How about elsewhere?
Yeah, well, in the Tollivers owned a big farm.
Oh, yeah?
And there was another family the Dukes. The Dukes family owned it.
Where were their places?
The Tolliver was south. And in fact, it hadn't been too long since they sold that farm. The rest of, I think Goodrich bought. Was Goodrich out there in that area?
I don't know.
Goodrich bought that. Their property. They were some of the last ones. And the Brewers lived out there and had some land too, but I don't know exactly what it was in relation to the...
Would these were black families. Would they sell vegetables or crops?
They probably did. See, these farms I'm talking about, they've been in their families for years. So
they were like truck farms.
A lot of people were farmers back in the early 1900s.
Yeah. Was there a farmers market in Springfield?
That I don't know, because everybody. I remember. I told you that Grandpa knew the Ray family. from the Wilson Creek days.
Yeah.
And old man Ray used to come by with rabbits and chickens and vegetables to sell from his farm. But I don't remember farmers market in the town. There probably was, but I didn't know about it. But they used to come in with the goods.
Yeah, that Ray family, I think their home is part of the national park out there.
It should be.
Yeah,
right. Because that's where they took General Lyon's body after he was killed in the Civil War.
Yeah. Were they African American? The Ray family?
No.
No.
They were white.
But they were friendly?
But there was some I read in history where there was some black person that was connected with the Ray family, but I'd have to do research on that.
Yeah. You have done a lot of research.
Yeah, I've been working on everybody's research.
Yeah. What are you working on right now?
Well, I'm working on trying to compile all these, all the information I have in the categories. You see, I got a box there with Springfield, one church. Oh, yeah. And I got to get a couple more. And then after that, I'm going to put them in books or just classify them. Oh, yeah, that's I've been working on the Black history for Springfield, for the school. And then with Pruitt-Igoe, I used to work at Pruitt-Igoe.
Oh, you did?
And then the fellow was working on the history of Pruitt-Igoe, so I was trying to get a lot of that information together.
Oh, that's good. Did you ever live down there?
No, I worked down there, but I didn't live down there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really an interesting place. I worked down there for a while.
You did?
Yeah, I worked for a civil rights group years ago called Block Partnership.
Oh.
And we worked with Cochran Apartments
right.
near into the city.
Yeah.
And I worked with a Reverend Garnett Hennings.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do you know him?
I remember him.
Yeah. And then another Reverend P. Albert Williams.
No, I don't remember him.
Garnett Hennings was a pretty well-known minister,
right.
I think.
AME.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the Black history, I think, is really interesting because there's so many little sidelights to it.
It is.
There's a lot of church history. There's business history,
right.
And there is just things that people don't think about.
I know. When I went, they invited me to the American Revolutionary War ceremony in Springfield.
Oh yeah.
So when the man called me and invited me. And he said he wanted the members of the Beadle family. I said, well, now you know I'm black. He said, I'm aware of that. I said, okay, I just want to know before I make the trip. So then when I got there, this was my second time there, and I sat down by this group of ladies. I said, well, now are you connected with the Beadle family? They said, no, we're from the Daughters of the American Revolution. You're the members of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I said, okay. So then the lady on the property said, Ora, she said, there's another person that's searching their ancestry with the Beadle family, and they want to meet you. I said, okay. I thought it was another black person, But then she said she got on a red T-shirt, so she turned out to be a member of the Beadle family, a grandson of Marlon Beadle, I think that's what you call his name, and she was a lot of Indian in her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right. I have to show you a picture sometime. And so we've been communicating ever since then.
Oh, that's great.
Right. Yeah.
Well, so you're aware of the Native American family in your tree,
right?
Were there many Native Americans who you know of who came to the hotel?
No.
No. There.
Not at that time. Now, see, in earlier years, there were a lot of. We knew of a lot of blacks that had Indian ancestry because you could tell by looking at them in the first place.
Yeah.
But now, Miss Christman, one of the Beadles, white Beadles, told me that there were a lot of Indians in the area when they settled in Missouri. But they came up. They ran them all, but a lot of them came back to hunt.
Oh yeah.
But they finally just drifted on back to Oklahoma, But now, like one of the ladies I was telling you about, one of the Bedales had a Indian wife, but when he went off to Jefferson to take care of business and all, they treated her so bad that she went on back to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But this one of this white cousins of mine, her mother was her I guess her great grandmother was Indian.
Yeah.
And you can tell by looking at her.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that's true. So the Indians weren't. You could just tell it by looking at them, but they were pretty well mixed in with either the white side or the black side, and there weren't many purebred Indians who were in the Springfield area.
Well, back in the I'd say 1920s, there were probably quite a few, but
really?
They drifted out after as time goes on.
Yeah. Did you ever see any people stay at the hotel, black families who were coming from elsewhere in Missouri, like maybe the Boot Heel or other places that were traveling on Route 66?
Well, a few, but most of them seem to be coming from Chicago or up east, going to California.
Right.
Like the migration from the south to the north. A lot of them were coming from the east, going west, settling in California.
So there's a pretty good migration going out to California. Did you ever get tempted yourself to want to go out to California?
Yeah, I did. After my divorce, I wanted to go to California. In fact, I was thinking about California, Kansas City, or St. Louis. And after I thought about it, I said, well, California, so far, if somebody got sick, I'd have to come back and forth,
Yeah.
So I decided on St. Louis.
Yeah. Because you had family here and you were close to...
Well, my sister-in-law lived here, and she asked me to come up and stay with her while I went to school.
Oh, that's really great. Yeah. Well, we talked about a lot of different things. What is your strongest memory of traveling on Route 66? Do you remember anything special about that highway?
Well, I remember that the people we ran into were very nice and courteous. We never had any trouble. We didn't stop too many times, because we know the conditions. But the times that we did stop, now one time, this was in the 50s, when my mother and my stepfather, we were driving to California. And we were so tired. And we stopped at this motel. And we asked the fellow, did he know where we could stay? He told us we could stay there. But he said, we had food in them. You know how we packed food in them?
Yeah.
So, because we never know when we're going to stop to eat. We had ice in the food, but it was so hot when we woke up. The ice had melted.
Oh, yeah.
And there were ants all over the room. We had to clean the whole room because we didn't want this man to find all these insects, and he was so nice to let us have the place, and he had already told us. But we had driven so long and we were so tired.
Right.
Then when we woke up, the ice had melted and the ants were all over the room.
Oh, my goodness.
So we spent all morning cleaning the room.
Do you know where that was? New Mexico or Oklahoma?
I think it was in New Mexico, near Tucumcari or Roswell, one of those places.
Yeah. So African American people had to be especially courteous because you didn't want to cause any problem.
Yeah, well, we were just taught like that, so
right.
And we never had any trouble. I don't know. And when we went to Estes, Colorado, we didn't have any trouble.
Yeah.
And when it was an old time gangster, I think, back from Missouri, but he saw our license plate. And he said, where part of Missouri are you from? We said, well, take your pick, St. Louis, Kansas City, or Springfield. And so he said, well, I'm familiar with Kansas City, so he knew some old-time gangsters that we had read about. So he gave us our dinner free, and we just talked and had a good, nice conversation.
Yeah. Well, I think you've learned that if you treat people right, they'll treat you right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's wrong with some of the young people today. They don't have courteous manners. They don't respect each other.
Yeah. Well, I think people have gotten so busy now that they don't take time to listen and to know what they can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me thank you now. I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.
I think we got a bunch of different information here.
Okay.
And the hotel was a big part of your growing up, wasn't it?
Right, it was. Right. Yeah. And we had some fun days there, and it was and you know, my children, they enjoyed it too. You know, they stayed down there.
They remember.
A lot of times when I was working or busy, they would stay down in the hotel and they'd help out. You know.